Good afternoon. My name is Stephen Epstein. I'm in the presence of my colleague, Eric Henty. We are both visual artists, and we represent Art Upfront Talks. And I would like to focus in today on the incredible journey that Eric Henty has made as an artist and basically focus in on his own development and philosophy. And we're going to just very simply ask Eric some important questions about his career as a visual artist and be inspired by the information that he wishes to share with us. So, Eric, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for that introduction.
Of course. So, Eric, is there a certain kind of an order to the questions you want me to ask, or can I just follow through with any question at all?
Yeah, just start wherever you'd like.
Okay. So, Eric, each artist, either consciously or unconsciously, deals with specific themes. And could you maybe introduce us to examples of themes that you work with or have inspired you to build your own compositions?
Very, very good question. Yeah, sure. It's this last series that I did and still working on uh, has many different themes, but they mostly deal with human relationships. And a lot of them are very timeless ones, I think. And for me, that makes it interesting that they can not only be applied today, but also to basically any time in the past that humans have been around. And you can see some of these same themes in art history. Um, for example, the piece behind me, let's see if I can move a little bit.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. It shows an artist on the right hand side of the painting and has there's a sitter in front of him, but and he's painting. It's a very small canvas that he's painting on, but the sitter is represented in a couple different ways, which makes the theme. I would say it's kind of multi-dimensional, depending on what you're focusing on in the artwork. But the sitter is, uh, in my mind, now these artworks are open to anyone's interpretation, and that's the beauty of it.
Right.
Um, but I personally see her as a spiritual uh, sitter that is inspiring the artist. And in the artwork, you could see she has her palms are out. One is a yellow palm, and the other is kind of a bluish greenish. And it's as if the sitter is open to the artist, giving the artist inspiration, um, giving of themselves to the artist in this relationship so that he can render a portrait of some type of her. And I think it does operate on several different levels. Um, I have other ideas about this particular piece, but I don't know if it's necessary to go into it. Um, I have other artworks that again you can interpret them in many different ways.
Hmm.
depending on what you as a viewer are drawn to. Uh, for example, I have a piece where there's a young girl seated and she's holding a small bird, and the title of the piece is Girl with Wounded Bird. And the idea of this is a human relationship with the natural world. The girl is showing compassion to the natural world. And if you look closely at this piece, the way she's holding this bird, it also forms the shape of a uh, small musical instrument, which adds another level of meaning to it, where you have a harmony between a person, nature, and her surroundings. And uh, there's more in this artwork as well. And again, it depends on what the viewer focuses on. Uh, a lot of them, in my mind, they have multiple meanings. They are done in, I would say, Cubist style, contemporary Cubism, but they're not fractured images to show brokenness of any type. They're more multi-layered to show different uh, meanings in the artwork. It's, I think, rare to show a human being that is not multi-dimensional. I think we
Hmm.
all, and I try to represent this in the artwork.
Right. So,
Yeah.
in your dealing with the theme of people, and also with imagery that has a certain kind of a symbolism connected to it, and also trying to find the relationships between individuals and their environment, individuals and the natural world. Um, do you think that as an artist, that the artist has a certain kind of motivation to educate people or to involve them in a certain kind of social um, importance of a theme that inspires people to think about the world or to think about their surroundings, so that basically you are trying to motivate people to think about the direction and the focus and the relationship between the artist and the society. What do you think?
I think you said it very well. Uh, the I do think that that is my motivation. I think earlier in my artwork, when I was working on pieces, uh, there definitely was some symbolism, but this latest series seems to reflect more of my deeper beliefs and thoughts about the world. And uh, I do hope to stimulate from the viewer, first of all, an emotional connection that they see themselves in the artwork, something that they could connect to, and uh, an affirmation of humanity itself
Mm,
during this time where we seem to be going through so much technological changes. Our whole world is based on very quickly moving technology and information, and um, it seems as though sometimes humanity takes a back seat.
mm.
People are
Interesting.
striving to survive. They, have goals to support their families, and that's understandable. Everybody's trying to make a living, and it's I think it's important to be able to stop, to reflect on what it's like to be a human being, and be able to see the world around us, maybe not through the lens of technology or information, but through a very humanistic type approach that preserves our humanity during this time,
Hmm.
so we don't lose it. I mean, progress is great to some extent, but if we lose what it genuinely means to be human in the process, then I think a lot of people would argue that that's not the kind of progress that, as a society, we need.
So when I see your work, um, you have a very strong sense of color, a very strong sense of design and composition. And how, as an artist, do you stay away from cliches that people throw at you? In other words, if I examine the composition and I see the designs and the abstracted images, there is a certain stylistic connection historically to artists like that, such as a Picasso. If someone comes and says to you, "Oh, I see you're working in a Picasso technique," how do you respond to that? Because for me, every artist that creates a work of art with the intention of using their skills, their understanding of form, composition, design, and structure, creates something original. How would you try to avoid the pigeonhole and the cliche of being compared to just an artist?
Fantastic question. Fantastic question. And this is the way I see that, is that uh, every artist is born into some time in history. And uh, I see every artist that they don't necessarily come up with um, a fantastic originality that no one has ever seen before, because we're all influenced by artists that have come before us, artists that are contemporaries, and that's actually, in my mind, that's a wonderful thing. The Take for example Picasso. Someone says, "Well, gee, your work is just like Picasso's." Um, I would say, well, yeah, I've been influenced by him. There's no question of that. I've been influenced by other artists too, Chagall, Matisse, um, Cezanne. There's lots of artists, and Picasso himself was influenced by many artists as he developed his styles, I should say, because he moved through many different phases as he grew older, um, inventing Cubism along with another very good artist. Um, his name, I don't know why, escapes me. Brock. They
Mm-hmm.
worked together creating that style. Uh, He went through a blue period, a pink period, uh, and some of those in reaction to some very critical experiences in his life. But to get back to what I was saying, say, for example, Picasso, he very much was influenced by Cezanne, El Greco. If you look at his painting of the blue guitarist, the the limbs and the fingers are all elongated, and that's very much a characteristic of El Greco's characters
Hmm.
in his paintings. And even the blue in that artwork, though maybe for different reasons, um, El Greco uses some of that also. And someone could have come along at that time and said, "Gee, that's I think that's an El Greco." Um, but Picasso himself admits to using those influences and then creating his own styles from it. African sculpture,
Mm.
which he started to develop, especially when he did a portrait of Gertrude Stein. Uh, he during that whole time, which I guess there were many sittings involved while he created that portrait of her. Uh, he got her face to be kind of cubistic.
Mm.
Uh,
Interesting.
and so, yeah, it's every artist and many times are influenced by artists that have either come before him. And I'll mention a very contemporary artist. Uh, Let me see, George Condo. George Condo extremely connected to Picasso. He borrowed many things from Picasso as he started and developed his artwork. He's got cubism in there. He's got multiple facial features that he uses. Uh, he does put different twists on things for his own originality, but um, yeah, but I'm not Picasso.
Oh,
So
you're Eric Henty.
thank you, Stephen. It's a great question, though.
So thank you very much, for giving that kind of context. In your work, there is a story, there is a narrative. And I've noticed over the years that I have exhibited with you, I have seen you develop your work, there is a narrative to the composition. Can you give us some basically description in terms of what kind of narratives do you create in your compositions? Give us some sort of um, awareness of the kinds of narratives you've used
Mhm.
to build your compositions.
Well, also, great question. I One thing I do before, and if I don't do it, I should. Before I create an artwork, I say a little prayer. And I ask God to guide me, and I very much believe in divine inspiration. Uh, that as I'm working on something, I allow and open myself up to um, a divine kind of inspiration, and I'm asking God to work through me. And for me, that creates a lot of meaning for me in what I'm trying to accomplish. And as far as narratives go, uh, I think that I was trying to express earlier that I have accumulated by my age now a lot of life experience, and I think subconsciously it forms different kinds of images, and I try to allow those to reveal themselves onto the canvas. And it's sometimes they materialize from memory. Sometimes they materialize from things that I felt that were important in my life. Uh, for example, the image of the fish symbolically has always been a spiritual symbol for me. And you and I have discussed this earlier. We talked about one of the pieces of artwork I made years ago, but for me, it's still memorable. And you were very helpful in locating some Christian uh, artwork that was done many, many years ago with a man catching a fish.
Hmm.
And I believe that was either during Greek or Roman times.
It was during the Roman period. That's true.
Yeah. And in that artwork, there was the image of a fish up high in the artwork. And then there was more like a cow to the side or a bull. And the and then there was a small character in there, and his face had an expression of um, I how would I say? I would say not alertness, but a bit of anguish almost.
Hmm.
And for me, that expressed something that I wasn't totally aware of at the time. But then when I saw it on the paper, I was like, that's some of the uh, angst that I feel, that struggle, that tension between trying to live a spiritual life and also too, we're flesh and blood. We're tied to this earth in many ways, and there's a real tension there. Um, and as human beings, we're um, called on to reproduce. That's a strong urge. We have to, in a sense, we have to hunt and gather. I
Hmm.
mean, in a sense, we have to provide, and all those things are very much tied to the earth. If you want to talk about an earthly plane, a spiritual plane, and there's tension between the two.
Hmm.
And that artwork for me really represented that tension. And um, it's very revealing to me when there's a discovery for myself through making artwork, um, something I really enjoy about it. Um, but yeah, I probably could, look at some of the other artworks I created and talk about other uh, stories. Uh, One quick one comes to mind is created an artwork with, it was at night. It was a nightly scene, and it had a parental figure in it, and my and a younger figure in it, which I related to as myself. And the moon was shining behind, and then there was a small turtle in the front. And when I was a young man, I mean, very young, maybe 7 or 8, um, I used to raise turtles as a kid. And my mother was very supportive of me. And I remember the day that one of my favorite turtles died, and I took that turtle and took my shovel, went down behind the embankment in the back of the yard there and buried that turtle, and I was crying. But this scene had some very, for me, had some of those emotions in it, at which is, I guess that would be like a story, like you're saying, a narration to it.
Mhm. What I find it very interesting in your work is you're a contemporary artist in the period of now. So you've developed a career in the visual arts. And what I think you have tried to do and to create some sort of balance between your being contemporary and current is that a lot of the information of your forms, the shapes, the symbols have a certain kind of Christian background. So, what is very fascinating for me is that when one goes to the colors and the designs and the shapes of your work, um, when you go beyond the surface of all the information that you've created, there is a certain kind of a Christian or theological information associated with it. And that is the nice balance between something that has a religious connotation and a religious structure and background to it, and it is transformed into something which is contemporary and something which has information and color and design and storytelling. And at the same time, it's basically grounded in history, in Christian mythology, in something which is spiritual, something which deals with the scriptures. So that you've transformed the scriptures into a surface, not as a text within the Bible or the New Testament, but it is then given the information that is in a canvas. And when one has that informational connection to Christian spiritualism, they then find a very, very colorful, uh, full of design, abstracted form, even though it is figurative, they will find that balance in your work.
I very much appreciate that observation, Stephen. I, you pick up very strongly that my Christian faith is very important to me,
Mm.
and that it comes out in the artwork is, uh, it's not so much a surprise to me, but that you pick up on that is, I think, quite astute of you, and it's also a confirmation to me of what I'm doing is important. Um, and I think both you and I connect at a spiritual level. Uh, that's very important to us and uh, is important in both of our works, in the works that we do. Um, and as I look at the work, especially that I've created from this time, it started from a time when I was up at the lake. It's a cottage that is in my family. It's surrounded by woods. It's on a lake. It's always been a very uh, wonderful gathering spot for my family for years. And that's really where this whole series started. And uh, I would say that that's partly where some of this, the religiosity and the work comes through, though it's not necessarily direct, it's more of an indirect representation. And I guess another thing I would say about this, and I'm wondering if this is what you also pick up on, is that these artworks have been uh, a layered process where, and I'm not going to talk about process too much, but uh, they all start out with a very mathematical kind of underpinning. And I think that those underpinnings continue to build up one on the other in kind of a mathematical, um, and I, as I interpret it, and who knows for sure, I think it's kind of a divine type of uh, architecture where it
Mhm.
seems to build up on itself and then it results in these images taking place. Uh, and I've always kind of wondered if someone examined some of the curves, uh, rectangles, and the angles, if they wouldn't come up with some type of uh, mathematical relationships that occur naturally in nature? Or is there some other type of uh, mathematical type formulas that it might align with? I don't know. But it's an important part of creating these pieces.
No, I think it's a very fascinating process for each artist, but when we examine your work, we see something very uniquely being built up, scaffolded from the information that you're sharing, the spiritual connotations that are built into your work, and then the manifestation of that spirituality becomes the composition that you're creating
Thank,
with
thank you.
images, with colors, with gestures, um, and the relationship of certain colors and certain forms that in itself are telling a story. They are telling an interactive, informational story that describes something important and personal to you. So, Eric,
Thank you.
I thank you very much for sharing the information you did about your work and giving it the openness and the excitement that your work deserves.
Very much appreciated, Stephen. It was very thoughtful interviewing. I appreciate that very much.
It was a very, very thoughtful, reflective interview. And I thank you very much for your openness.
Okay. All right. So I think we've wrapped that up.
I think so.
Okay. me see. Let me go to stop